The stage was set like a classic theater piece, but this time, the spotlight wasn't reserved for the script. Caitlin Clark's NCAA Homecoming was a full-scale production of talent, anticipation, and a bit of poetic justice. Geno Auriemma, a towering figure in college basketball, a man whose comments rarely float away unnoticed, found himself on the receiving end of a deliciously ironic twist, on live TV no less. What unfolded wasn't just a game. It was a masterclass in basketball, drama, and the occasional bite of humble pie. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Clark's return to Iowa felt less like a homecoming and more like a coronation. The arena buzzed with energy that seemed to defy physics. Every fan, from the diehards in painted faces to the parents with their kids perched on shoulders, had come to witness the phenomenon that is Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, Auriemma, who spent decades building a dynasty at UConn, appeared poised, arms folded as if rehearsing lines for his inevitable post-game analysis. Little did he know, the script had other plans. The first quarter started as expected. Clark darted across the court, orchestrating plays with an ease that belied their complexity. Her no-look passes sliced through UConn's defense like they were choreographed, each one landing with pinpoint accuracy. Yet Auriemma, ever the tactician, seemed unimpressed. From his body language, you'd think Clark was running layup drills against his team, not dismantling their strategy in real time. The camera panned to his face, stoic, almost bored. But the scoreboard told a different story. As the game progressed, Clark turned up the heat. It wasn't just her shooting, though her three-pointers were practically ripping the net. It was the way she controlled the game, dictating its rhythm like a seasoned conductor leading an orchestra. Auriemma, for all his courtside bravado, started shifting uncomfortably. By halftime, Clark had outscored most of UConn's starting lineup, and the murmurs from the commentators hinted at what everyone was starting to realize. Auriemma might have underestimated his opponent, and now the receipts were due. The moment that would go viral came in the third quarter. Clark, catching a long pass at the perimeter, drained a three-pointer so effortlessly, it seemed to mock the laws of physics. The crowd erupted, and the camera immediately found Auriemma. He smirked, shook his head, and muttered something under his breath, an unintentional acknowledgement that his earlier comments about Clark's limitations had aged poorly. The internet didn't need a microphone to fill in the blanks. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere, framed as Geno eats his words in real time. Auriemma's reaction, while subtle, was telling. The man who's built his career on precision and control was suddenly a spectator to a performance he couldn't script. His usual demeanor, part professor, part drill sergeant, gave way to something more human, a wry acceptance that even legends can get it wrong. Clark, meanwhile, didn't just capitalize on the moment, she owned it. Her grin as she backpedaled down the court was the kind of unspoken banter that doesn't need words. It wasn't disrespectful, it was pure confidence. Off the court, Auriemma has a reputation for his sharp tongue and sharper wit. He's the type of coach who doesn't mince words, whether he's praising his players or critiquing the opposition. But in this instance, his usual air of authority wavered. As Clark continued to dominate, Auriemma's expressions told the story of begrudging admiration mixed with the faint sting of being outmaneuvered. It was the kind of humbling moment that sports in their unscripted glory are so good at delivering. Clark's performance didn't just silence doubters, it elevated her status to something bordering on mythical. Each shot, each assist, felt like a response to years of skepticism about whether women's basketball could produce stars as electrifying as their male counterparts. The fans ate it up. By the fourth quarter, the crowd wasn't just cheering, they were roaring, a sea of collective affirmation for their hometown hero. Auriemma, to his credit, remained composed, though his occasional glances at the scoreboard suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. When the final buzzer sounded, the arena erupted in a way that felt cathartic, like a long overdue celebration. Clark, the showwoman, waved to the crowd with a mix of humility and flair. Auriemma, meanwhile, offered a handshake that was professional but noticeably subdued. The post-game analysis was inevitable, but the live footage had already said enough. Geno Auriemma, the maestro of college basketball, had been outplayed, outshone, and perhaps most satisfyingly for Clark's fans, outtalked. The implications of the game were significant, not just for Clark and Auriemma, but for women's basketball as a whole. Clark's ability to command the court and draw massive audiences underscored a shifting narrative. No longer was the women's game an afterthought. It was a spectacle, and Clark was its brightest star. Auriemma, with all his accolades, became a supporting character in this chapter of her story. a role reversal that few could have predicted but many found deeply satisfying. The broadcast crew, sensing the magnitude of what had just unfolded, didn't hold back in their commentary. They analyzed every aspect of Clark's performance, from her shooting mechanics to her court vision. But the underlying theme was clear. She was rewriting the playbook. Auriemma, though rarely one to admit defeat, seemed to understand this too. His body language during the post-game handshake said it all. There was no animosity, just a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes the game isn't yours to win. As the crowd began to file out, the echoes of their cheers lingered in the air. Clark, surrounded by teammates and fans, looked every bit the star she had proven herself to be. Auriemma, walking towards the locker room, seemed lost in thought. Perhaps he was already planning his next strategy, or perhaps he was simply reflecting on the night's events. Either way, the message was clear. In the face of undeniable talent, even the greatest have to eat their words. The night ended as it began, with Clark at the center of it all. Her performance wasn't just a victory for her team. It was a statement, a moment that would be replayed and discussed for years to come. Auriemma, for all his experience and success, became a footnote in the narrative, a reminder that in sports as in life, no one is untouchable. The court had spoken, and the words it left behind were etched in the scoreboard and the memories of everyone who watched. Clark's homecoming wasn't just a game. It was a defining moment, a clash of eras and egos that delivered on every level. For Auriemma, it was a lesson in humility delivered on the national stage. For Clark, it was another chapter in a story that seems destined for greatness. And for the fans, it was everything they'd hoped for and more, a night where the game transcended the court, reminding everyone why they fell in love with basketball in the first place. As the arena emptied, the air still crackled with the electricity of what had just unfolded. Caitlin Clark's performance had cemented her place not just in the lore of Iowa basketball, but as a transcendent figure in the sport. Fans lingered, as if reluctant to let the night end, swapping stories of the game-changing plays they'd just witnessed. Auriemma, a figure of such commanding presence, left the court more subdued, a reminder that even the most seasoned legends are vulnerable to the brilliance of emerging stars. The narrative of the night wasn't just about one player besting a coach or a team. It was about the undeniable shift in basketball. Clark didn't just win a game. She authored a moment that would inspire future players and redefine expectations. For Auriemma, the night was a humbling reminder. For Clark, it was the crowning moment of an unforgettable homecoming. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.